We are on the record at 3:47 on April 17th, 2024. This begins the video recorded deposition of Bryan A. Lober, taken in the matter of State of Florida versus Robert Burns. Will counsel please introduce themselves for the record at this time, after which the court reporter will swear in the witness.
Jessica Travis for Robert Burns.
Gary Beatty, Assistant State Attorney.
I nominate for Mr. Lober.
Thank you. I'm Tanya Moss, the Republic for the State of Florida. At this time, Bryan Lober, will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Hand down, counsel, proceed.
Okay, will you tell us your name, please?
Sure, it's Bryan Lober.
Okay, and I know you have a mask on. I'm not going to ask you to remove it, but we just make sure you speak up a little bit. Okay. It's up to you. I'm not.
Yeah, I just don't want to give you a cold.
Yeah. Will you spell your last name, please?
It's L as in Lima, O as in Oscar, B as in Bravo, E as in Echo, R as in Romeo, Lober.
So it's Lober.
Correct.
Okay. How are you employed?
I'm an attorney.
Okay. I take it you have acted as an attorney during depositions?
Yes.
Okay. And have you ever been subject to deposition yourself before?
Never.
Okay. Do you feel like I need to explain the rules of deposition to you?
Not necessary.
Okay. I will only say that if you don't understand my question, just ask me to rephrase, and if I ask you if that's a yes or no, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just trying to get a clear record.
Gotcha.
Okay. Mr. Lober, we're here to ask you about an incident and people involved that occurred on August 10th of 2023 at the Melbourne Mall, which was an argument or an incident between Robert Burns and Karen Colby. To be clear, you were not present for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you did not appear at the Melbourne Mall before or after that incident, is that correct?
I'm sure I've been to the Melbourne Mall, but I don't think I was there on the date of the incident.
Okay.
If I was, I certainly had nothing to do with it in terms of seeing or hearing anything.
Let me ask it this way. After the incident between Burns and Colby, which you were not present for, did you go to the Melbourne Mall on August 10th?
I don't believe I was there on that date.
Did you ever go to the Melbourne Mall to talk to Miss Colby about that particular incident?
No.
Okay. You know Karen Colby, correct?
Yes.
How do you know Karen Colby?
Mostly through political circles.
You are or used to be a politician yourself or an elected official, is that correct?
Correct.
What position did you hold?
I was both county commissioner and commission chair for Brevard County.
Okay. Any other positions?
I think technically with the Republican Party, I hold a position that would be on the ballot if I had opposition. But frankly, it's not anything of consequence.
What is that, though?
Oh, gosh. Committeeman, I think, is the official title.
Okay.
And I've held that for years.
Okay.
How many years, I couldn't tell you, but years.
When you ran for county commissioner, did you have to campaign and all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Okay. And did Karen Colby help you in any respects in your campaign?
A number of people helped me. I believe that she did things that were beneficial for the campaign, yes.
Okay. How long have you known Karen Colby?
I'll ballpark it. Half a dozen years, perhaps?
6 years, approximately?
Thereabouts.
Have you ever hung out with her socially? Let me phrase it this way. Have you ever gone to her house and hung out with her?
No, I've never been to her house. She's never been to mine.
Okay. Have you ever been to social events with her that are not political or party related?
I think the only events I've ever been with where I've known that she's been there or where I was aware that she was there have been in some way related to politics.
Okay. Do you have her phone number?
I have at least one phone number for her.
Okay. And you know who Robert Burns is, correct?
Yes.
How do you know Robert Burns?
There's not really a concise way to state that, but give me a moment so I can try. He ran the campaign of my opposition in the general election. I think that's probably the the root of it. I could give you a longer explanation, but that's
Who was your opposition?
Victoria Michener.
Okay. So he ran Victoria Michener's campaign.
To the best of my understanding, yes.
Okay. Did you know about him before that?
If I did, we're talking now many years, over half a decade ago. If I did, it would have been something that wasn't significant enough that I remember at this point.
Okay. You know that he runs the Space Coast Rocket, correct? Which is an online media source, correct?
I would dispute that categorization, but I understand what you're saying and I'm familiar with it.
How would you categorize it?
Propaganda.
Okay. In what way?
In the sense that he's written about himself in the third person, that he writes under a pen name or a pseudonym, that he writes about stories in which he has personal involvement in a way that doesn't disclose that personal involvement. He tends to focus on disproportionately, if not exclusively, political figures on one side of the aisle. Context is wholly absent, and I find a lot of the content of which I've been made aware misleading,
Okay.
if not outright false.
Okay. Safe to say you're not a fan of Robert Burns.
I've never pretended that I've been.
Okay. Now, drawing you back to the incident on August 10th of 2023, for which you were not present, but you heard about it at some point, correct? The argument between Burns and Colby?
You just mean in a general sense? Or?
Yeah. Did you hear about it?
Yeah, my understanding is it's essentially common knowledge at this point. I think there was a Space Coast Daily article, perhaps. I may be wrong about that, but I think there's been coverage online with respect to it to some extent, and just existing in the community, you can't help hearing what you hear.
Did Karen Colby contact you about it?
Any communications from Miss Colby, if there were any, would have been privileged under attorney-client privilege with respect to that.
So you represented Ms. Colby?
I've not entered any notices of appearance, but just as I advise my clients who are physicians that they shouldn't acknowledge if someone's a client or, a patient or not, I advise them generally have a release form for HIPAA and say, if you believe that individual is a patient of mine, have them fill this out, and if they are a patient, I'll provide you with info. As I've said, I've never been deposed before. As far as I'm aware, I'm not even entitled to acknowledge that someone is a client unless I've made some filing in a public-facing document. So I unfortunately have to leave it at that.
So you're not willing to say whether or not you ever acted as Karen Colby's attorney?
I don't know that I have the right to say that.
So the answer is no, you're not willing to say that?
I'm willing to say I've had no non-privileged conversations of which I'm aware regarding the incident in question.
So your testimony is that all your communications with Karen Colby would fall under privilege?
With respect to this particular incident, to the best of my knowledge, yes, but I would have to caveat that with the fact this has been now, 6 months? There could have been some conversation I simply don't recall that may have been non-privileged. I just don't recall any non-privileged conversations.
Do you have any explanation about why your name would be in the state attorney's file?
If you'd show me, I'd be happy to let you know if I recollect anything.
Okay, let me show you a few examples.
Please.
I'll go back to number letters.
Take your time. a sip of this while you're numbering that.
The record, I'm handing you what's been marked as Exhibit A, which is an 8-page composite.
Okay.
Feel free to take a look and let me know when you're done.
Gosh, that text is small. September 13th.
You can read it, I can't.
I've got enough of an idea.
Okay. Are you ready for me to ask questions?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
I want to direct your attention, actually, because I think these are probably in reverse order, but I'm going to direct
That's
your
fine.
attention to page 8 here,
Yes.
and what appears to be an email from you to Karen Colby.
I would agree with that.
Well,
Okay.
well, if this is privileged, it would be privileged. If this is an attorney-client communication, now it could be waived if it was sent to the state attorney's office, then that privilege might be waived, but I don't think Mr. Lober has any idea as to how that information made its way to the state attorney's office, whether or not it was under subpoena.
This was
and
produced
compelled.
by the state in response to a public records request from my office.
Right, but I'm assuming they got it from Ms. Colby.
Yes, that's what I'm
I
going to get
don't know-
to.
I don't know if they compelled it, which might not waive the privilege, or if she sent off that communication, which might waive the privilege, but if
That's
Mr.
what we're gonna-
Lober believes it's,
That's what we're going to get to.
well, I think he can't answer any questions if he believes that these, I'm not speaking for him, but if he believes these were attorney-client communications that are contained in this email, he shouldn't be discussing them.
And let me jump
Well,
in.
I prefer that I ask a question, and if you have a specific objection to it, then we can lodge that, so we could take it up with the court if we need to, okay? So this appears to be, on page 8, an email sent, actually, let's start this way, and maybe that'll take care of the issues.
Sure.
At the very top of this, it appears that this is an email from Karen Colby to Meredith Peacock with the state attorney's office, dated October 18th of 2023. Do you see that?
It looks like there's another recipient as well, maybe Kent Sellers?
Yes, a couple of people.
Yeah, I see
Okay.
that.
Okay. And would you agree then that the last page of this, page 8, which appears to be sent by Ms. Colby to the state attorney's office, appears to include an email by you to Ms. Colby?
Well, again, I understand you're saying that she emailed Mrs. Peacock, but we don't know the circumstances that led to that email being sent to her, whether or not there was a threat.
Well,
So
Mr.
email-
Lober knows, so if he wants to articulate an objection, he can.
Well,
But
Mr.
when I
Lober-
get something as a result of a public records request, I can't imagine that there's any privilege attached to that.
Maybe I'm confused. Are these emails, all emails that were sent by Ms. Colby to the state?
Yes.
So Mr. Lober might know of the communication if he had the communication, but he still wouldn't know how the communications between him and Ms. Colby made their way to the state attorney's office, which is what I'm saying.
And I'll,
If
But
they
he,
were
but
compelled,
he can answer.
but I'm saying I don't want him to get in trouble with the bar for disclosing attorney-client privileges if those privileges weren't waived by Ms. Colby. They very well might be.
That being said, he has not actually asserted a privilege. He said that he can't say one way or the other.
Well,
So if he can't say
and
one way or the other,
I'm just
how can
advising him, because I
Matt?
have a different view of whether or not you could say you were an attorney or not. I think you could clearly say, I'm this person's lawyer.
you can object on the grounds that it falls under privilege?
Right, so I think if he's uncertain as to whether or not Ms. Colby has waived any attorney-client privilege, he shouldn't discuss those matters until that issue is clarified. If it's been waived, he's free to discuss it. If it hasn't been waived, he shouldn't yet discuss it because he shouldn't get in trouble with the bar.
Okay, but he hasn't asserted a privilege.
I would simply reiterate my earlier comment, and I don't recall it verbatim, but the crux of it was essentially that any communications I may have had with Ms. Colby with relation to this particular incident, to the best of my knowledge, would fall under attorney-client privilege.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question, and then you can give your response so that we have it recorded in
Sure.
case we need to litigate it in court. Okay. So my question is, and then you can say whatever your response or objection is, that it appears that part of this public records request response from the state attorney's office includes an email between you and Karen Colby dated September 13th of 2023. And my question would be, is that correct? And your answer is?
Is what correct? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be difficult, I just don't understand.
Is
Your
that,
answer should be that it's privileged, Brian, unless otherwise informed otherwise. That's your answer.
Okay,
If you
well.
don't want to say that, I mean, I'm just telling you what you should say.
No, on advice of counsel, I'll just go ahead and assert privilege with respect to that, as far as that falling under attorney-client privilege.
okay. So let me ask you this generally,
Sure,
and you can take advice of counsel.
okay,
I'm not telling you not to, but I'm putting my questions on the record.
sure.
Did you communicate with Karen Colby about this incident between she and Mr. Burns on October 10th of 2023?
October 10th, was that the date of the incident, or?
Yes, at the mall. I can say it that way. I'll call it the mall incident.
Didn't occur on October 10th.
What'd I say? August 10th. I'm sorry if I
August
said
10th?
October. The mall incident between Burns and Colby. Did you communicate with Ms.
I-
Colby about that
And
incident?
if you didn't, then you could say no. If you did, then you should, and those communications in your mind were of an attorney-client status, then you should say that those communications are privileged. So if you didn't communicate, the answer would simply be no. But otherwise, there might be a privilege attached.
I don't explicitly recall having communicated with her about anything that date. However, if there was some communication, which I simply don't remember half a year later, it would have fallen under privilege.
Okay. I'm not asking specifically on that date. I'm just asking in general. Did you ever, and your answer might be the same, but the way you answered made me feel like there might be some confusion. Did you ever talk to or communicate with Karen Colby about the mall incident between she and Burns?
Yeah, I definitely have to claim privilege with respect to that.
Okay. Have you ever represented a Brooke Orsini?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Have you ever communicated with Brooke Orsini?
I wouldn't know her if I walked into her, apart from just seeing the photo of her here.
Did you ever research Brooke Orsini?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Like what her status was, where she lived, if she had prior convictions, anything like that?
To the best of my recollection, no.
Okay. Did you find out that she had a pending case?
The only information I have with respect to Miss Orsini, I believe, was on this document that you just showed me.
Okay. And what was that? And for the record, we're referring to Exhibit A.
Yeah, the composite exhibit.
Yes.
It looks to be kind of a,
So again, if these are privileged communications, then you shouldn't be discussing them. I don't know what they are. I'm
Not
just
all of
saying-
them are communications between you and Miss Colby. There's some.
it looks to be a series of photos.
Okay. Were you aware? Were you aware of any information regarding Brooke Orsini, be it her booking photo, that she had a pending case, where she lived,
I
anything
have-
like that?
I have no knowledge of that apart from knowledge which would originate from an attorney-client relationship.
You didn't independently research her Facebook or anything like that?
I can tell you, I don't think I've been on Facebook in any capacity in years.
Okay, so the answer is no?
No.
Okay. Did you ever find her booking photo and provide it to Randy Fine?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Have you ever provided any information regarding Brooke Orsini to Randy Fine?
I don't believe so.
Do you have an attorney-client relationship with Randy Fine?
Yes, I've discussed legal matters with him.
Okay, but do you have an attorney-client relationship with him?
I would just echo with respect to as it pertains to Mr. Burns, I would echo that the statement that I made previously with respect to my not being able to divulge anything, any conversations that I may have had with him in relation to this incident in any way would fall under attorney-client privilege. There is one exception, though.
What's that?
The only exception that wouldn't fall under that is I did ask him for a copy of his deposition transcript if he had it, and I did get that.
From Randy Fine?
Correct.
Okay. Did you pull down the federal indictment and give that to Randy Fine?
No.
Okay. So you're not denying that you have given Randy Fine information. You're just saying if you did, your answer would be privileged. Is that correct?
Which specific information are you asking me?
Well, Brooke Orsini's booking photo.
I'll just make it easier. I don't believe I have. I don't think privilege even comes into play because I don't think it ever occurred.
Okay. Did you ever send Randy Fine like Brooke Orsini's arrest record or anything like that? Police reports?
To the best of my recollection, no.
Do you have a Pacer account?
Yes. I haven't used it in a long time. And I certainly didn't research Miss Orsini, if that's where you're going.
Okay. What about Vic Lubker? Do you represent him as well on
No.
anything? You have an attorney-client privilege
No,
confidential relationship with him?
no,
Have you communicated with him regarding Brooke Orsini?
absolutely not.
Have you communicated with him since the mall incident
No.
about Robert Burns?
About nothing.
Have you communicated with the state attorney's office about the mall incident?
Not about the mall incident, but of course I've communicated with the state attorney's office on a variety of matters.
Any of them involving Mr. Burns?
Since this incident, no, and I don't know, quite frankly, even prior to this, if I've had communications with the state about him, but certainly not in relation to this incident in any way.
Have you spoken with Mr. Beatty in relation to this incident in any way?
No, the only dealings I've had with Mr. Beatty in relation to this incident were having attended the hearing earlier today and attending this depot. That's it.
Okay.
I do like his taste in t-shirts, though, or in Columbia shirts. I'll add that.
Cool. So to be clear, if I asked you, did you talk to Miss Colby before she gave any statements to the police? Your answer to that would be,
I'm
What?
going to make your life easier. No.
okay. She spoke to the police that responded to the mall, and then she spoke to a single officer later in the day. So she gave actually 2 interviews. Did you
Okay.
communicate with her prior to either of those interviews, just to make it clear?
I don't believe so.
Without getting into the contents of your conversation, did you assist Ms. Colby in filling out any paperwork, whether it was a statement or an injunction paperwork?
So that could be privilege if that
I'm not asking
might
you.
have happened, then that might be privilege if you were acting in an attorney capacity if during the course of that hypothetical.
I'm not asking you the contents, I'm just asking.
If you don't mind, would you split that question in two?
Okay, did you assist Ms. Colby in making any statement in the criminal case, the mall criminal case?
With respect to the police report, no.
Okay.
Or any police report, no.
Did you assist Ms. Colby in her injunction paperwork?
I did not assist her in her completing her petition for injunction.
Did you communicate with Renee Torpy about the injunction paperwork?
If I did, it would have been solely in my capacity as an attorney.
You did not attend Ms. Colby's deposition in this case, is that correct?
That's correct.
So was your attorney-client relationship terminated, or had it ended prior to that deposition?
The extent of any attorney-client relationship did not include attendance at the deposition.
Okay.
I can tell you I had a request from a law enforcement agency earlier today uninvolved in this to assist in a petition for injunction for an individual. And based on time conflicts, I'm probably going to essentially advise that individual of things that I believe are appropriate to say and not say, consistent with what was included in the petition for injunction, but I'm in all likelihood unable to attend that particular hearing for her. So that the fact that I am or am not in a particular hearing doesn't mean that there was not and is not a continuing relationship on the attorney-client side.
So does your attorney-client relationship continue to today, or is it over?
If there's an attorney-client relationship in relation to this, it would continue to today.
So to be clear for the record, you are not willing to even say if there's an attorney-client relationship, or if there
I
has
don't-
been at any time?
I honestly don't know if I have the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a bar opinion that says that I can do that, I'm happy to let you know. Or if you want to take a break for 5 or 10 minutes, I'm happy to let you do that. Then if you show me something that's unambiguous, I'll happily tell you.
So your position is you can claim privilege without saying whether or not you had an attorney-client relationship?
I think that's a stretch. What I'm saying is, with respect to individual questions that you've asked, I'm telling you everything I can tell you that would not involve breaking privilege.
Did you communicate with anyone in law enforcement, be that police officers or Brevard County Sheriff's Office, in regards to this case and to the mall incident?
I don't believe so.
Okay. You didn't contact Melbourne Police Department to see why they weren't arresting Mr. Burns or
Definitely
anything like
not.
that?
No. No, I try to have as little to do with him as possible. The only times that I can recall I've ever reached out to him were in response to communications that were sent to me by him. I try to avoid individuals I don't care for.
You don't need to volunteer information, Brian. You can just answer Ms. Travis's questions without expanding on anything she
Thanks.
hasn't asked you.
So going back to my earlier question about you're not a fan of Mr. Burns and that he's campaigned or been a campaign manager for a political opponent in the past. Is that
Mhm.
correct? And safe to say that your feud with Mr. Burns has been pretty public. Would you agree?
I don't know that I'd phrase it as a feud, but I think that the fact that there is some level of dislike there is fairly public, yes.
I mean, when you were a county commissioner, didn't you call him a rapist during a meeting?
You would have to refresh my recollection by showing me my specific words. I don't recall the specific verbiage that was used. I know that he's been alleged to have raped a number of individuals.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever have him removed from a press conference?
I believe he snuck in when the building was closed to the general public and was open solely for purpose of press.
Did you ask for him to be removed?
I don't know that that's relevant to this.
Or did you?
Again, I don't know that it's relevant to this.
But your answer is what?
My answer is I don't know that it's relevant to this.
So you're refusing to answer? I mean, isn't it well known that you asked for him to be removed from that?
I don't remember the exact words used, hence my apprehension in responding with specificity.
Mm-hmm. But you know what I'm referring to?
Yes.
Okay. There was an incident where he was present for a press conference, correct?
Yes.
And you to whether or not you had him removed, he was removed, correct?
I think that's a fair statement.
Okay. Have you yourself ever filed any criminal complaints against Mr. Burns?
Unless I'm misunderstanding you, I would think the only one that can file an information is the state attorney's office. I've never worked for them.
Let me say this. Have you ever filed a criminal police report against Mr. Burns?
I provided information to law enforcement with respect to Mr. Burns. I don't know that I would call it a formal police report.
Was it alleging crimes or pertaining to crimes?
Yes.
You, are you on, or have you ever been on a group chat with other individuals about Mr. Burns?
I may well have. I don't have a specific recollection, though.
Okay. All right, I don't have any further questions. Mr. Beatty, do you have any questions?
Mr. Lober, I don't recall if when I was working for the state attorney's office, if I ever prosecuted a case where you represented a defendant or not. Do you recall any?
I believe you handled first appearance on at least one occasion where I was opposing counsel.
Okay. Other than that communication, have you and I ever had any communication whatsoever?
Apart from my comment regarding your shirt today, I don't believe so.
Okay. So this is basically the first time, other than when you were at first appearance, you and I have ever been in the same room, as far as you know, unless we might in the courtroom. Or
Yeah,
something. Okay.
apart from perhaps being in the same courtroom, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever had any communication with me whatsoever about Mr. Burns?
No,
Have you ever had any communication with anyone at the state attorney's office about Mr. Burns?
to the best of my recollection, no.
Okay. Have you directed anyone else to communicate your feelings about Mr. Burns to the state attorney's office?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So basically, you have nothing to do whatsoever with Mr. Burns' case here. Is that correct?
He dug his hole, I didn't cause it, I don't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
Well, let me clarify that. You have never talked to anybody at the state attorney's office regarding Mr. Burns? Like ever?
I've talked to law enforcement with respect to concerns pertaining to Mr. Burns. I don't know that I've ever communicated with the state about Mr. Burns. I certainly have not communicated with the state regarding the subject incident. I don't know that I've ever communicated with the state about him, though.
Okay. All right, I don't have any further questions. You have any follow-up, Mr. Beatty?
Nope.
Okay. Would you like to read or waive?
I'd rather read,
Okay.
please.
Do you need an email?
Yes.
Okay, it's Lober B, so it's, you ready for it?
Can you just write it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Just right here?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
And before I bring this off the video record, do either council require a video order at this time?
No. But transcripts, let me get back to you on the transcript.
Correct.
That's
Not
an
at
O.
this time.
Okay.
No order at this time, and witness will read if ordered.
Please.
Okay. Thank
Unless
you.
unless we have anything else to cover, we're going off the record at 4:22.